Hello everyone, my name is Phyllis, KuanYin, and I'm making a video diary of sorts, a vlog for myself to recall these crazy times that we're living in, while sharing my thoughts and wisdom with anyone who wants to join me on this journey. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below, and consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like this kind of video. And you can comment down below with your thoughts and experiences on shaking as a trauma release, or with any other ideas or suggestions for future videos that you might want to see from me. Liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting not only helps me out, but also helps my content reach others who may benefit from it. Pardon my no makeup look. I just worked a double today, and I get to sleep in the morning. That's the good part. But when I get up at 5:30 in the morning, I'm not putting makeup on. Yeah, so anyway, getting into this video. In this video, I'm going to recap and expand on an article that I recently read by a trauma psychotherapist, Amanda Gregory. I'll leave the link to her article down below in the description box. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychotherapist, and I recommend that you consult with your doctor or your therapist following their advice before you try anything that I may mention in this video. Whew. So, there's a deer in the woods, perhaps drinking out of a stream, and the deer sees a wolf. What does his body do? Well, first off, just like with any animal and with us, the adrenaline and the cortisol starts flooding the system, and the response system kicks in: fight, flight, freeze, and faint. And of course, the deer most likely chooses flight and runs away from the wolf. But let's say that the wolf is fast and catches up to the deer, catches him. Well, then another response needs to kick in, and perhaps the deer freezes and falls, limp. But somehow, while the wolf is dragging the deer to its den, let's say that the deer finds a way to escape. And then the deer is in flight mode again, running away from that fox. All right, so once the deer is safely away from the wolf and the danger is past, what does his body do? Okay, well, we just ran away from that wolf and we need to find a way to calm down. Well, the deer's body will start violently shaking. Now, the first time that I've heard about this shaking response in response to trauma and, a traumatic event, I went on searching for examples on YouTube, and I found a video of a polar bear. There are many videos that you can find on YouTube, and I saw one of a polar bear who had been chased by humans, tranquilized, and then when he woke up, he went through that shaking response, and it's quite amazing to see. And that's him healing himself. So what this does is, your body is still flooded with all those chemicals and all that energy because you need to have time. You need to be able to run at a moment's notice when danger appears. And because he's shaken all that out, he releases all that extra chemicals and all that extra energy so that his body doesn't store the trauma. And then he can go on about his day, go back to his stream and take another drink. Now, wild animals live extremely stressful lives, but they don't suffer PTSD the way us humans can, and I believe that that shaking response may be one of the reasons why. You may also notice this in small children, young children. When they're scared, they climb into their mom's lap and they may start trembling. And that's because they're not conditioned yet. They haven't had that tool taken out of their toolbox. They're not worried about embarrassment. They're not worried about what other people think. They're not being told to calm down, at least not yet. They're not being given anti-anxiety medications. Humans are conditioned to suppress that natural shaking release, that natural tool that can help us ward off PTSD. And what happens when trauma is not released? When trauma is not released, it can be stored in the body and muscle memory. And last week I made a video about feeling the feelings. I'm going to leave a link for that at the end of this video. I'd like you to go take a look at that if you haven't already, but feeling the feelings is one way of so when you feel your feelings, you're expressing them and you're letting them release instead of pushing them down in. Well, the same is true with the trauma response with the shaking. You're releasing that tension with the shaking rather than suppressing it and letting it condense and go down inside in your muscle memory. Now, a traumatic event can be a single event like a car crash, but it can also be accumulated over time in chronic stressful conditions such as childhood trauma, abuse, neglectful conditions, food scarcity, chronically worrying about your bills and when the rent is going to be paid. These things can all add up and cause chronic stress. Now, the body does not see the difference between a wolf 50 feet away from you and the landlord needing that rent check. And the body reacts the same way with the cortisol and the sugar spikes and all that to get you in that state. Okay, so when trauma is not released from the body, like if it's chronic, if the deer were, for example, were being constantly chased by that wolf, constantly being caught all day, all night, constantly escaping from the wolf, never having time to process this, he would likely die from apparent exhaustion because of that built-up trauma response in the body. When trauma is chronic, it builds up over time, our physical health is affected. The sympathetic nervous system is always on when we're constantly under stress. And the sympathetic nervous system is what releases the cortisol, the adrenaline, the fight, flight, freeze, and faint system. And the blood sugars, your glucose in your blood spikes in order to get you that energy that you need to run away. So your heart starts racing and your breath becomes shallow, fueling those muscles ready for action. Your blood sugars are raising. And all this can cause some heart issues, some restricted breathing, diabetes, headaches, chronic pain, stomach and digestion issues, because that body is always ready for that next stressor with no time to relax. No time to drop into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where our bodies are designed to be most of the time. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest mode. We're meant to rest and digest and enjoy life and be able to have that response for times of stress on the rare occasion that we need it. We're not meant to live in that state of stress. So there's a quiz that can help you find out how much you're affected by your childhood trauma. It's called ACE, or Adverse Childhood Experiences. If you score high, then studies show that you're more likely to develop all the things I mentioned before: heart disease, diabetes, depression, other health issues. What can we do about all this? There is a formal practice that has proven success called TRE, or Tension and Trauma Releasing Exercises. It is a method that was designed by Dr. David Berselli. And I'm going to leave you a link down below to traumaprevention.com. That is an official TRE website where you can see videos with examples on it, and you can search for a local TRE therapist that's near you. So what do you do if there isn't a therapist that specializes in TRE near you? Well, we are born with this trait to be able to do this for ourselves, and over time we are conditioned and it's removed from us. So it is a natural state to be able to do this. And you could practice shaking on your own. I would highly suggest consulting your therapist, mental health provider, medical doctor before practicing, because strong emotions may arise when you're doing this, and it is good to have someone on hand to help you through the process. Or if you're noticing tension in one area and you start doing physical things with that one area, if you have an injury there, you could injure yourself more if you don't pay attention to medical advice. Anyway, keeping all that in mind, a good place to start is to approach this playfully. You don't have to be triggered in the moment to play around with shaking. A good place to start is to shake your entire body, like playing pretend. Let's imagine that you're extremely cold and you're just shaking to warm up, and you just start shaking your body, shivering, yeah, okay? And then shaking that out. Maybe jumping up and down to warm up, rubbing your hands together. Maybe a more fun way for you to do this would be to put on some high energy music and dance and shake the different parts of your body as you're dancing. Or you could even imagine diving into a cool, refreshing pool for a swim, climbing out and shaking the excess water off because you forgot your towel. Those are just some fun suggestions on introducing the concept of shaking. And as you become used to this, you may notice areas where you feel chronic pain, muscle tension, numbness perhaps, areas maybe where you have frequent injuries. And this is where a body scan meditation, if you're familiar with it, really comes in useful. So I like to do a body scan meditation for myself, where I usually go toe to head. Sometimes I go head to toe. And I just become aware of each area of my body. Pay attention to it. See if there's any tension there. And try to release that tension. And one way you could do this is by tightening up the muscle, like tightening up your toes really, 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 really tight, counting to 5, and then release. And then that releases further than if you find yourself all tensed up and you simply try to release. So if I find myself all tensed up, sometimes I'll tense up even more. And tensing up even more sometimes starts that little shakiness, and that's a good thing. And then release and relaxing into it. And if you would like me to lead you on, do another video on a body scan meditation with the tensing and releasing, make a comment down below and I will do one for you. Okay, so you may notice in your body scan meditation that you're holding tension, perhaps in your jaw or your shoulders, for example. These may be areas of your body where you're holding a trauma. Now, keeping your own limitations in mind and listening to your body, you might want to try shaking out those areas. And like I said before, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, so please talk to your provider and listen to your own reason. Pay attention to your body. And please never push past what your own body and mind can handle. So if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing down below and hit that notification bell, because I do these videos sporadically in between my work, and I'd like you to get notified next time I release one if you're interested. And comment down below and let me know what you think, and if you've had any experience with any of this. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Namaste.